Welcome to the show, everyone. If you're finding us here on YouTube, know this is a podcast. Hi, I'm JJ. This is Katie. This is my show. So, in case you don't like me, so if you've stumbled upon this topic and you're like, I want to hear more from Katie, Katie, where can they find more just about you?
Womensmeditationnetwork.com.
I have to say it because I do understand, like in years past, if I have a famous guest on and someone's Googling them and they're finding them on YouTube, they want to hear the guest. So they're like, who's this woman? Why is she talking so much?
Well,
But I
then
do
they
need,
should stick around because you're a phenomenal interviewer and the whole experience is amazing. See, so
well,
stick around.
Well, thank you. I do know that I've gotten some of my clients from YouTube. They found me through looking for somebody else. But
See?
then I also know that people get agitated and I totally hear them. So that's why I tell you all, if you don't know me and you're here for the first time and you're looking for Katie or topics on meditation only, I am going to talk because this is my show. And I'm not apologizing for that, but I do feel your plight. So please find the information that you need. And here we go. This is a free show that I produce for you, by the way. You're welcome. All right. So if you're on the podcast, come meet Katie. Come on over to YouTube if you haven't met her before. She's been on the show before. She owns the Women's Meditation Network, and you'll hear all about that as we continue today's show. And we wanted to talk about self awareness and how to find the answers inside. So before we get started, Katie, welcome back to the show.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Uh, is there anything new since the last time you were here that you want to share or talk about or highlight?
Ooh, oh my goodness. I think since the last time I was here, the network has doubled in size. And so, I mean, that's really where we are. We are a network of podcasts. We now have 20 different podcasts, all to provide free guided meditations and sounds for women. Our last batch of 5 podcasts are actually dedicated to kids. So, meditation for kids, sleep meditation for kids. So, we're here to be able to give women really easy access to meditations that help them come inside. That's pretty much it.
So now I remember last time you were here talking about the network, you and I had a conversation about networks because I had a network, but it wasn't an official network because
Right.
sometimes in podcast land and on your host that you use, if you become a network, you pay more and you have
Right,
to,
right, right.
and so there are different things to sort of up level that, and you helped me create the Empowering Minds Network. So now,
Yay.
which also has 16 shows on it, 16 or
Girl,
17.
get it.
So thank you for that. So womensmeditationnetwork.com. Please check it out. So let's talk about this idea of using meditation for self-awareness and finding the answers inside. When people think about meditation, I think they just think of relaxing, going to sleep, maybe reducing anxiety, but is there a certain kind of meditation or how people are using it? Does it have to be guided or can it be just a quiet meditation? Take us down that thought pattern.
Yeah, so I will be the first to say that I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I know everything there is to know about meditations and the different schools of meditations and all the different types of meditations that you can do. I'm pretty well versed in a lot of them. However, um, I think you're right. I think when most of us think of meditation, really what we're thinking of, kind of what we envision is what we see in sort of a nice picture, like, woman or a man kind of sitting with his back very, very straight, lotus position. You can almost see the chakra colors coming through on your straight spine, hands out to the side, and that is beautiful and that is great. But and I think simultaneously, what we sort of immediately think of are these, what I'm going to call very amazing physical and psychological benefits, right? And they're usually the things that I love actually kind of holding as a carrot in front of people saying, yes, come listen to a guided meditation. I'm going to help you sleep. Come listen to a guided meditation. I can help you through a moment of anxiety. I can help you feel calm. I can help you feel centered, right? And those are all really very true, very big benefits of meditation. But I'm going to say to that whole picture, I personally think A, it doesn't need to look like that. B, there's so much more beyond that. And so this is really where I step in to provide meditations and really what's the why behind why I'm writing these, why I'm creating these, why I've built a whole network of these. And that's really because I really want to promote meditation as something that is easily accessible, very very easily digestible, whether it's a guided meditation or just you by yourself without guidance. it doesn't matter really what it looks like. You don't have to be in a particular position. You don't have to do it a certain way. You don't have to do it during a certain time of day. It could be whatever it is you need it to be. And we can talk about, that wide range of a definition that I really have, which some people may or may not agree with. But when I talk about the deeper benefits, you really hit it on the nail as soon as we started. Like, I really feel that using meditation as a tool, one of the many tools, by the way, as a very powerful tool to come into ourselves and to actually get to know ourselves is incredibly transformative. So we can start, if you want to, as easy as pressing play on one of my many, many guided meditations that calls to you. And you could just use that as an opportunity to find some stillness in that practice, to come inside, to start distinguishing between that inner voice and that external noise. And it becomes a really powerful practice to strengthen our connection to our intuition and to our self-awareness.
Have you personally had, and I'm sure the answer is yes, but I guess let's just talk about like the biggest ahas you've had through meditation for your own finding your answers. Like if you want to give an example of, I mean, I can explain on the technical quantum physics, law of attraction side why that works, but I'd love to hear from you sort of what you found to be really helpful and to create clarity and
Yeah.
to help you answer questions, to help you solve a problem, to help you help with communication in a relationship or in your business.
I mean, I have millions of examples at this point, but I'll zone in on one really powerful one. And I think you and I kind of spoke about this moment the last time I was on the podcast. I've been podcasting since 2014. In 2018, I had a whole nother podcast back then, a women's business entrepreneurial show. And in 2018, we found out we were pregnant with our second daughter. And just like in a heartbeat, I was just something in me knew I was done with that business and that podcast. I was just done. So I decided, I don't know how that happened. I just sort of like heard this whisper or had kind of a knowing of like, I don't want this anymore. And it was interesting because it's not like we always believe that voice right away. It's sort of like, no, I'm going to keep on pursuing this. That's a very scary thought because I don't really know what's on the other side of this. And there just kept being all these things that I would hear internally that were like, no, you're done. So once I sort of got comfortable with that, I really started asking the question, like, if not this, then what? If I'm not supposed to be doing this, then what am I supposed to be doing? And journaling is another really, really powerful tool. I know you do that a lot too. And so I would sit down for meditation or I would journal and I would just sort of like allow these questions to sort of be there. So if anyone listening has a question, I know you do, of like, what do I do about XYZ? Or what should I do here? Or what do I do to get what I want? Right? Like we all have these questions on a regular basis. So there I was in 2018 going, what do I want? What do I really want to go for? And to make a very long story short, came up with the idea of the Women's Meditation Network. And this is where meditation as a practice really can hone in for us and can be used. In that, I would be sitting down for meditation, um, and I would just hear this inner voice. I don't know how to explain it. It's sort of like a whisper, and it was sort of like, I know what I need to do. It was like a very cinematic, like if you put a video camera on me, like my eyes would open and be like, that's it. I need to do that, right? Or in another example, I'd be on, what we might consider a moving meditation. Like I would be out in a walk in nature and I would just sort of like use the opportunity to get present with whatever was around me. And I would just sort of hear this like, yes, you need to do this. Do the meditations. Do it. It's not going to make sense to anyone else, but it's yours. Like it makes perfect sense to me. So in that pretty consistent voice and guidance, I kind of maneuvered through this really awkward, from the outside, it looked like a very awkward, weird, nonsensical transition from a business podcast and company to a meditation podcasting company. No one else understood it. I mean, obviously, my husband, the people who love me the most, even some of the people who love me the most were sort of like, what are you doing? I don't really get this. But this is the power of it. I knew, even though I had sort of these external doubts because it was something new and it was hard and it was different, and anything new is going to feel uncomfortable, I had this inner knowing. And it was just this voice that kept talking to me like, you're good. Just keep going. Like it's going to be awkward. Just keep going. So, I mean, that's one of the many, many examples that I have of literally being in meditation and just sort of having this like, I know it, or being out in nature. And after a moment of catharsis of like working out in energy or like, you know, noticing the birds and being completely present, it's just this like, whoosh, okay, yes, do this idea, do this, go, go, go. So I consider those pretty profound whispers because to me, they don't scream. The noise outside, the perceptions, like the ego, that kind of our internal ego screams. She's loud. She wants to make sure she's heard, right? And then all those external voices of everyone else and what we think culture wants of us and all of those things, what we think is the norm versus what we're actually doing, which is so not the norm. Like all of those voices are loud and they're disruptive. That's not, I don't, in my experience, that hasn't been the volume of my intuition. It's just been this very solid whisper or kind of a stern, like talk. It doesn't need to speak very loud. It doesn't need to yell because it's speaking directly from and to your soul. So it's sort of like, okay, I gotcha. I'm going to choose to listen.
Did you specifically sit down to meditate to find an answer, or did it just sort of happen in meditation?
Um, both. Because this didn't happen in one fell swoop. Like it really happened over the course of, I would say, a couple of weeks in this particular moment. So sometimes I was sitting down in meditation, just kind of with the intention of wanting to get rid of the feeling of discomfort. Like I've got this like weird transition happening and I'm so uncomfortable in it and I don't really know exactly how I'm supposed to go. And so sometimes I would sit down just with the intention of getting rid of that discomfort. Sometimes I would sit down to meditate with the intention of, here's my question. Can I have some clarity? I didn't always get an answer. It's worth noting that. Like I didn't always feel an answer right away. Sometimes I did, sometimes I didn't. Sometimes it was going on a walk with my husband and, having these moments where I could hear myself flush out some of these ideas, hear myself reflected back from him and have these ahas. I have a very broad definition of meditation. And to me, that's something that's so powerful too, is really being able to hear yourself in conversation with people you love and trust and who can sort of hold that space for you. So it was a multiple of these. Sometimes I'd go to my journal and just write down the questions and kind of see what I was writing down and answer. So it was using all of these tools to help me kind of over and over again over the course of weeks feel confident that I heard it correctly and that I trusted and that I was going to be brave and go that direction, even though it was completely at that time, like completely new, completely different. I was very clear from the beginning, like, oh, if this is the path, if what I'm envisioning, because I envisioned a network from the beginning, like I envisioned something big. And I was like, oh, goodness, if this is really the path, like I've never done this before. I've been a podcaster before. I've had a very loving niche, loyal audience, but I've never gone big. And I don't know how to do that. So that's terrifying, but I'm going to step into it and keep trying.
Well, congrats, it worked.
Thank
Well,
you.
well, a couple of things I thought of during your story. I'm thinking of a client of mine right now. Shout out to Helen, who is a great coach and businesswoman, and she's been with me now. This is her second year in the mastermind, and learned a lot about her and how she works in her business and where she is. And this year at our first retreat, actually before the retreat, because I had been to her recently to her house. She hosted my birthday party. So there were a bunch of us that went to her house, and she has an Airbnb that's a different house. That's how this originally started. And she's just an amazing hospitality person. And I just said, why aren't you doing this? And so when we finally came up to it, she goes, okay, I have to admit, this little voice in my head has been telling me this for a long time, and I just keep ignoring it. And I was like, yeah, it's time to stop ignoring it because it's the right thing. And now that I've been with you long enough to have seen and been in person and see you do this, I'm going to concur that this is so, but it's scary.
It's so
And what
scary.
it's very scary for people, but I love that, the idea of using meditation to help you clarify that if the voice is still there and it's still telling you. So can I break down the mechanics? for a
Yeah,
second from law of
please.
attraction, vibrational frequency
Yeah.
standpoint? So, in the case of, okay, it's 2014, which by the way, when did you start? Because I started February, I'm not February, September 14th, 2014. So, I'm coming on my 10 years.
Yeah. I started February, I think it was 8th, 2014.
Okay, maybe I
Yeah.
just channeled that.
Yeah. I
Because I'm
know.
not February. I literally just freaking channeled that. Why I chose February,
There
literally, I
you
just
go.
channeled that. All right. Well, happy decade. Like
Thank
you're already
you.
past your 10 years. I'm not
I
quite there
know.
yet. I think I'm going to do a party. I don't know, like an online thing. I don't know what I'm going to do. Maybe it's like an online summit kind of, I don't know. Anyway, if you have any ideas, let me know. But I want to
Yeah.
celebrate it. I want to do something about it because I think it's obviously a very special, I don't even know what day of the week that is. Nonetheless, but put that on your calendars, everybody. September 14th, we're going to be doing something to celebrate 10 years of podcasting. Um, I talked a lot about law of attraction earlier, and in my shows, that's why I started Spirit Purpose Energy. It was the passion behind the podcast in the first place because it gave me an outlet to talk about it. But when we want something, so you had this feeling, this you listened to the intuition that said, "I need something different." Okay, that's point one. But then you're like, "But I don't know what I'm gonna do, and I don't know if I'm ready to do the thing that I'm thinking about, and I'm not really sure yet." When the vibration of the problem is a lower vibration than the solution. So when we focus on the problem and we talk about the problem and we think about the problem and we haven't changed our frequency about it. So let's say you're worried, you're concerned, you're afraid, you're scared, you're confused, you're all of the negative words that go along with making a big decision and making a big leap. As long as we're there in that emotion. So doing the same kind of state. So whether it be talking to people or it doesn't matter if you're going to journal about it. And that's why I asked you if you got the answers in meditation, because sometimes I think that's too dead on. It's too in the face. Like if you sit down with the intention of finding the answer to this question, when I'm in worry, you're not going to get it because you're not in a different frequency to receive the answer. Now,
Yeah.
if you can get into a meditation and be relaxed and let go of the resistance of finding the answer so I feel better and just aim to feel better no matter what it is, changing your perspective, doing a state change. I like you. So when Doug and I get my biggest downloads walking with Doug
Yes.
and talking, or not even talking, just walking. That's how I
Yeah.
came up with my rewire program because I
Yep.
had done a 3 month version of my certification, which then became the 6 month deep dive. And I didn't love how much data I provided in such a short period of time. I felt like there was no time for integration. And so, but I also knew intuitively, business wise, that a lot of people weren't ready to jump into a 6 month program. They weren't going to go from 0 to 6 months. So, three felt better, but I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do with three. So it was the balance of, I knew that three was a good idea, but I didn't like the way that I did it. And I didn't know how to get around that. And that was with me for months because I kept saying, nope, it has to be six. Nope, it has to be six. I can't do it in three. I can't do it in three. But I really know that that's a better decision. And then just one day on the walk, I said, well, what am I actually doing in this program? And then I came up with rewiring. I'm rewiring their core wound patterns. Oh my God. Okay. I can do 3 months. I know what I'll do now. It became really clear. And,
Yes. That's
and
exactly how it happens.
right,
Yeah.
right,
Most often that's how it happens is like you're sitting with it, something's rumbling, right? Like something's sort of unsettled. And you're right. Like you go to meditation, you go to, moving, you go to journaling, but it's sort of if you go into it with too much desire to squeeze out the answer, it ain't gonna happen. So it comes to you in moments when you can hear it, in moments when you're really relaxed, in moments when you're maybe not thinking or attached to it.
right. And that's so let me circle back around to the meditation piece because it doesn't really matter where it comes. It matters that you practice changing
Yes.
your frequency. So
Yes.
meditation is about coming into a frequency of neutrality, really, because meditation isn't about, and that's not necessarily where we want to stay forever. You don't want to live in a state of meditation. You want to live in a state of joy. But you have a certain momentum. So I don't know if I talked about this on the last show or not, but there is a momentum that we're all, and I'm definitely guilty of it as a red hot moment of being in a negative one. But we all have it's either positive or negative momentum that you're creating with the thoughts that you're thinking, the stories that you're telling, what you're looking at, what you're focused on, and what you're worried about or what you're thinking about. And
Yeah.
your feelings, are the emotions that your emotions are the indicator. So depending on how you feel indicates what momentum you're on and what story you're telling and what meditation on momentum, what meditation can do is slow that down, is take that spinning momentum of negativity, of worry that you've created potentially in your life, or anxiety, or whoever's, having a problem or wanting to get something solved or wanting to get an answer to something, and you have this momentum, and how are you going to slow that down? Like, you're not going to just stop it. It has to kind of slow down gradually, which is why you can use meditation to slow down that momentum, come back to a neutral place, release resistance, let go, learn to surrender and trust, and then see what comes up for you. And most
Exactly.
meditations do bring a level of positive emotion, whether it be peace or, right? I mean, maybe not like you're excited, feeling love and joy and freedom out of a meditation, but you're going to go from any kind of negative momentum into more neutral, into
Right.
possibly hopeful. And on the
Yes.
vibrational scale of emotion, that's where you want to go. You want to get from whatever negative emotion you're on to a neutral, detached, into possibly hopeful. Like, if you get to hopeful or content, now we're working. Now we can
Yeah.
create some positive momentum. So uh I think the practice of meditation is not only important, it's necessary in today's society, because we're so often, I mean, the news, everyone is focused on what they don't want. Everyone is focused on what's going wrong. Everyone's talking about the next thing to worry about.
Right.
Who's talking about the things to get excited about?
Right.
Nobody.
Yeah. And I think that it's really important to know that it's really good to know yourself and to be honest with yourself about what it is you truly need in some of those moments. Like, for example, I used to call these on the fence days. Like, I would just wake up in kind of a weird mood and I would be self-aware enough to know that it was up to me. I could go into negative town or I could be like super joyful gal. And I was sort of in that mid space. And when I was in that mid space over the years, this took me a long time to learn. I had to learn, like, go for a run, go outside and walk, go get in nature. Like, to me, I need movement. Like, that's a really big part of what gets me going. I know you're the same way too.
It's because you're a
Um,
Sag. Fire
yeah,
signs need to move. Fire
we need to
signs
move.
need to move.
So, like, I'll give you an example of this. We're talking and it's, mid-May right now. I don't know, like a month and a half ago, I was just in this really intense season, lots of like big worries, right? Big adult worries going on. And I just remember like they felt like they were compounding. I mean, like kids stuff, I two young kids. So it was just like kids are shifting and changing. What they're needing from me is shifting and changing stuff. My husband's dynamic and I, like, we're changing as far as what's going on. Work stuff is evolving and changing. Like it just felt like we're trying to like really manifest some big stuff. It was like I have felt my my word for this year, whether you believe this stuff or not, my word for this year is bloom, right? So it's not even blossom. It's not the process of opening up and becoming. It's like, boom, I'm in your face and I am the best version of me. Well, guess what? The best version of me requires some big freaking up leveling. So like about a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, there was just this moment where all of that stuff seemed to converge. Like all these ways that I was growing in business and motherhood and my relationship just felt like, ugh, they're so painful. So I just remember waking up for days on end with just this looming anxiety on me and just all of these like, I got to do in order for me to get the result that I want. And I remember waking up one day going, it's so heavy. I need to go run. I need to go run. I've been an athlete my whole life. I can't tell you I've ever been in love with running. I'm not a great runner. I jog, like, but it's never something I've like loved. I just do it because it's, sometimes it's the easiest thing to do, but whatever. This day I went out for a run. I ran for an hour, which was insanely long for me. And by the end of that run, my brain was so clean and fresh. And most importantly, my entire energy had completely up leveled in vibration. Like I felt alive. And that feeling I have been addicted to ever since I did that. And I have barely missed a day between then and now. So, what I'm saying is, in any given season of your life, this is why I'm just an advocate for meditation as a way to really know thyself, become more aware of what it is you need and be willing to give yourself that at any given moment. I know in this particular season, dude, I'm leveling up. I need to make sure I'm not spending that much time in these little piddly human little things here. Like I need to up level my vibration. I need to up level what I know I'm attracting and the good that I want to put out into the world. And I'm real serious about this. So I'm like, I have to run like almost every day. Like I have to do it because I want that feeling at the end of it. Meditation, I get a very similar feeling. It's a little different. It's a little more nuanced. Like obviously I'm a lot more calm. Like my body hasn't been sweating, but it's similar. Journaling, very similar. Like there's this sort of after effect of catharsis and newness that comes in. And then you mentioned this place of like hopeful, coming into a place of like hope. To me, it's actually more than that. It's sort of like once you've cleansed through and dissolved those layers of earthly emotions, right? And thoughts and stories, it's sort of like you burst through this opening and you can kind of be on the other end and like that's where your best self lives. And so now you can play. So, my call is like, let me give people as many opportunities to do that and to get to that, because that's where clarity comes. That's where you can hear your inner voice so clearly. And most importantly, that's where you really get to choose. That's where I want to be the more often than this place back here, you know?
No, definitely. I I used to live near the beach. Now I live in the mountains, but I do go to the beach now. I've started running. Actually, yesterday I did sprints, which was really hard. Well, actually, it was hard and then it was easy. And then I got really tired. So I'm like, well, that really took me to a new level. But I once a week I do drive myself to the beach and run barefoot on the beach because I do miss that. But what I really miss is rollerblading. So any chance I get, I go back to LA to Redondo Beach, Manhattan Beach, and I rollerblade. And I'll rollerblade and I'll have something in my ears and like listening to music. And that's also where I get very clear downloads because I think it also when our physical body is is being activated, like it's busy. It's busy.
Yes,
So then
yes.
like this channel comes open. But what I want to encourage people to try is the combination of the two. So do your exercise. Everyone needs to move, not just fire signs, but
Yeah.
everyone needs to move. But if you did your running and then you came home and did a meditation, or if you did
Hmm.
it on both ends, did the
Which
meditation
I've
first, then
absolutely
went for a
done.
run,
Yeah.
because it's extending that being present time. And that's really part of it because most of us aren't present. We're worried. We're thinking about the past or worried about the future. We're not actually in this present moment. If we're actually
Right.
supposed to like take a second to drop in and be here right now, clear your mind of anything else and just be here present right now, everything is great. There's nothing wrong. We
Right.
make up stories, we repeat stories and patterns. I've often heard and have repeated that prayer is when you're asking for something, meditation is when you're receiving it. It's
Mm.
when you have to be quiet long enough. You have to shut up. You have to slow down. You have to be present long enough to hear the answers to the
Get
things that
off
you
the
want.
hamster wheel.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, this is awesome. So now you have meditations for kids. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Now, did
Yeah.
you try them on your children?
Well, that's why it exists actually, because so many of the meditations I have been writing over these 6 years have been for my girls, have been messages I wanted to share with them because, we listen to a meditation almost every night. And so, they were these messages I wanted to share with them. A couple of years ago, my oldest daughter was going through, like, she had a bully. And I just wrote this meditation about like she doesn't have to play with her. Like it was this really beautiful poem about like you don't have to play with somebody who makes you feel sad. You don't have to play with somebody who makes you mad, like so I put it into a meditation. I shared it with her. So there's just whether it's a message of like empowerment. I have one called She Was Herself, and that's what made her beautiful. These messages of empowerment, these messages to get through to the souls of the kids, or like these just beautiful visualizations, right? Like these guided visualizations that have no meaning other than like, cool, it's a cool like ride through the countryside. So they're pretty unique from other kids' meditations out there in that they're not like, meditate with Elsa, or come along with the journey with the porcupine. Like it's not that. It's adult created, but very like to the soul. Like I want them to be powerful messages, really good visualizations. And so I sort of have bundled all those up now and continue to make them for my kids and then, give them to other kids as well.
What I love about that, and we just got done with the Consciousness Upgrade Summit and talked about consciousness. And one of the great things that Dr. Bruce Lipton shared that I've been sharing all over the place is that our brains between ages 0 and 7 are just recording. We're not actually interpreting, we're recording. Everything is fact. And so
Mm,
life happens, and kids will say, well, I was crying, my parents didn't come, therefore I've been abandoned, or I'm not important, or I'm being ignored, or I'm not valuable. And it's a fact. We're just recording. And so to add that in early on the positive messages and to add it in even after 7 to help with maybe changing and addressing some of those core wounds, because that's what ends up happening. That's where our core wounds come from. They come
Hmm.
from, and everyone has them, and everyone's going to have them, no matter how well you are, how good of a parent you are. Your kids are going to have core wounds because they're not, again, interpreting, they're just recording. So their point of view, their perspective, how they operate, who they are in the world, which you won't know necessarily because they haven't necessarily fully learned how to express that or how to show you that yet. So you won't
Hmm.
necessarily know. You'll be being you in your most loving way. And something that you've done has created a core wound for them. But to go back and then add these meditations, which end up being hypnosis, is actually, there's hypnosis when they're before
Hmm.
until they're 7. And they're
Yeah.
hypnosis for all of us, actually. I mean,
Yeah.
as I was recording the one I recently did for your network, I
Yeah.
realized it was a hypnosis.
Yeah.
But I'm not a hypnotherapist, so I can't call it a hypnosis. It's not, I can't say this is a hypnosis, but it
Right.
will hypnotize you. It will get to your subconscious
Yeah.
and it will start to, with repetition, change how your neuroplasticity works and how your brain is interpreting things and how you're receiving things. And I think that's a really valuable part of meditation, not to mention it's like the easiest thing you can do if you're doing one before you go to sleep. What else are you doing in
Yeah.
bed? Put some earplugs in your ears and go to sleep with them. Like it couldn't be easier. You're
I
doing
know.
nothing else. You're going to
It's so
sleep.
easy. I know.
Use a
It's a nice
meditation
little
to
it's
reprogram.
it's such a nice routine too. I think I created meditation, specifically the sleep meditation for women podcast, because I myself have had trouble going to sleep my whole life. Like I wouldn't call myself an insomniac, but I have seasons where like I can remember as a kid, not being able to go to sleep once or twice a week. So, um, in adulthood, I found meditations as such a great way to sort of like let me completely cover my brain in beautiful words. Like let me just like by osmosis breathe it all in and it'll help me go to sleep and it gives me all the good messaging that I need. And I'm 45, I still find myself doing that. I will search for sleep meditations and I'm specifically looking for ones with good messages to help not just like relax your body, go to sleep. I do those every once in a while, but it's really like, no, I need a message of hope. I need a message of love. I need a message of like, you are enough. You're amazing. Like life is like, let's dream together. Like those messages I want to infuse into the listener because why it's so easy. You don't have to do anything, just press play.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I agree. In fact, last night I think I tried a couple different meditations that they weren't on your network. They were Insight Timer, but I remember there was one guy, like the voice sounds like a friend of mine. I'm like, no, no, I can't listen to him. I can't.
Isn't that
Mm-mm.
interesting?
Yeah, it is like, mm-mm.
Yes,
And I've
yes,
tried it before, and it like my body goes, whoa, is
yeah.
this is this your friend Chris? I'm like, yeah, no, no, I can't listen to that. And then another one came on, and I wasn't loving her either. So it was like, I forget. I think I just went to a binaural beat that
Yeah.
had no talking on it for like serenity. It was the ocean background, but I'll go between voices and people, yours and another person's, that are talking. And then
Yeah.
sometimes I'll use sort of binaural beats that don't have any talking on it,
Hmm.
depending on what mood I'm in, what I need. And
Hmm.
I do it 5 out of 7 nights. I don't do it every single night.
Yeah.
And I definitely think it's made a big difference. So,
Yeah.
what I really, really love about today's conversation and what I have learned from you is really, and I think maybe you might want to consider going back on other shows and also promoting this more, is this whole the kids meditation,
Yeah. Yeah.
because it's not just because they can't sleep or, oh, that's a nice, or get them into a good habit of being self-aware, but it's really about that programming. It's
I
about
know.
getting in messages while they're sleeping so their brain can balance the negative stuff that their brain has decided, and maybe start shifting some of that. So you get a chance to reduce their core wounds now, which to me is super exciting because
Yeah.
I'm sure all of us, once we learn what they are and how they rule our lives, our core wounds, when you go back, you'd love to go back and just fix it right away.
I
You'd love to
know.
go in and reprogram
I
what was
know.
programmed by mistake or that you were unaware of. I mean, there's so much power in that, to making them healthier adults and
I know.
functional human beings and happy people with self-confidence by doing it early. So guys, if you have kids, check out the meditation for children on Women's Meditation Network, please. I think
Yeah.
I mean, that just feels so valuable.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm quite proud of that one. So I'm really excited to continue getting it out there.
And just as another plug, I have recorded two podcasts, two meditations for the Women's Meditation Network. One was
Yay.
a while ago, and it
Hmm.
was, I mean, like a couple of years ago at this point, and it was on manifestation, I believe.
Hmm.
And but the most recent one is on healing your inner child.
Yes.
So, which was took all that I had to make that. I was like, oh my gosh, this,
So
I can't believe
good.
I committed to this. I was like,
It's so
wow,
good.
talk about
Yeah.
stretching outside your comfort zone. I mean, not that I don't already talk about this and do this kind of work, but I thought,
Yeah.
okay, well, this kind of makes sense. So, for all of you who would like to hear my healing your inner child meditation, please check out. And where can they go
It's
get it?
yeah, it's going to be on the Meditation for Women podcast. That was my original podcast. That's my OG. Really amazing audience there, really amazing group of listeners. So it'll be there.
Meditation for Women. So, check out
Yeah.
Meditation for Women, everyone. Any last thoughts or plugs or
No,
information?
I just feel like these conversations are so important so that they can be reminders for you and I, for everyone who's watching and listening to make sure that we know that we are in charge of carving our own path. Like we get to be the ones who decide how we react, what we build, what we're doing. And I feel like meditation, moving, journaling, so, they're all these invitations for self-inquiry. And what naturally comes out of that self-awareness is a muscle that listens to the guidance of our intuition, which ultimately always is leading us in the right direction. So, if there's anything in your life that you're uncomfortable with, that you don't love, that you wish were not in your life, like you have 100% control to completely create something new. And this just becomes a really great tool to do that.
It's a great practice, everyone. So if you're not meditating, start now. Thank you, Katie, so much for coming on.
Thanks, JJ.